and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
And I'm Merryn Johns.
Merryn, welcome back.
Nice to be back.
And we believe Ann will be back next week. And but it's wonderful to be with you. So in the headlines, we're going to start off with some positive. This may not sound like a positive story. A judge in New York refused to do her job and marry a lesbian couple, and there were calls for her resignation.
But then we have a Trump-appointed judge siding with a gay group in Alabama.
How about that? Trans activists, including Chelsea Manning, but not Sarah McBride, got arrested protesting in the U.S. House over the ban on using the restroom aligned with your gender identity.
And something we were all afraid of, the House has stuck an anti-trans rider in the must-pass Defense Authorization Act.
The devil never sleeps. In the wake of the election, a lot of LGBTQ people, we have evidence now, are flocking to marry and also stockpiling medications.
I do not blame them. And down in Florida, we've been tipped off that their new sex education curriculum has almost nothing about sex education left in it.
Florida, the Don't Say Gay state, now doesn't want to talk about sex at all. Look, we are mourning the loss this week, a tremendous loss in the community of the legendary poet Nikki Giovanni, and the director, David Schweizer.
And some good news, the killer of a Kenyan gay activist has been apprehended in a victory for...
Convicted.
Has been apprehended and convicted, yes.
Yeah.
It's a victory for, of course, out gay and lesbian Kenyans.
A rare thing in Kenya. And we're going to tell you about progress in China, Poland, and Spain.
And a lesbian surprise out of Germany. We're going to take a look at... Alice Weidel is a candidate for the new chancellor.
From the right-wing party. The out actor Coleman Domingo won at the Gotham Film Awards, and we're going to have video from him.
And speaking of awards, we're taking a look at the trailblazing queer nominees of the Golden Globes, including the star of EMILIA PEREZ.
Karla Sofía Gascón.
Mm-hmm.
And again, thanks for tuning in. And, you know, last week we made a brief mention of the fact that it's the end of the year, and we appreciate it if you'd help us out to get us through the next year, which is going to be a tough year. and people, with just that, we're so grateful to you for so many of you sent in these donations, large and small. Everything counts. It keeps us going. We just appreciate it very much. So
Indeed.
All you got to do is go to gayusatv.org, our website, and you can make a donation right there, tax deductible, or it'll tell you how you can do it by check if you need to do that, et cetera. So we're just so grateful.
As the kids say, buy me a coffee.
No, I mean, you know, it does keep us going. And it's not just that, the lovely notes that people send, that you really appreciate what we're doing here. So thank you.
I just can't believe anyone watches, especially when I'm on. I can't believe people.
Stop it.
People are like, oh, there she is. Oh, God.
Stop it. We love you, and we certainly love Ann and Chris, who comes in, and Rob Shooter, who comes in from time to time. But so let's thank you for your support.
Thank you, everybody.
If you can make a donation before the end of the year, that'd be great. And we love you, and we love the news that you sent us. Us to also. I mean, we have a lot of people who send us news items.
Yes.
If you know of something that you don't think we know about, we have a lot of sources. But send it to us, and you know, we will. And try to incorporate it into the show. So I want to start off in Syracuse, New York.
Yes.
New York.
New York.
So this lesbian couple, we have a picture of them. The names are Shawntae and Nicora Davis. There they are. They're preparing to get married, you know, going down to City Hall, etc. And what happens? The judge there, who's responsible for doing the weddings that day, is Judge Felicia Pitts Davis. There she is. She sees the lesbian couple and she just walks out of the room.
Yeah, now here it goes. All of a sudden, I'm quoting, all of a sudden she looked at us like she just swished her hair and walked away like she was disgusted or something.
Right. And people behind the scenes are saying, oh, she was citing her religious beliefs, that she couldn't do this. Now, here's the deal on judges who were responsible. Eventually, the couple did get married because another judge who happened to be there is an out lesbian. And that her name is Judge Mary Ann Doherty. There she is. She stepped in, calmed the waters, and did it. But there are calls for the resignation of getting rid of this Judge Felicia Pitts Davis. The district attorney says, I don't want her on any of my cases. You can't come into court and with a judge like this, knowing of her prejudice and that you're going to be treated fairly.
Totally.
The governor made a statement. Others are making statements. And again, here's the deal about if you perform weddings. You don't have to do same-sex weddings. But if you don't do same-sex weddings, you can't do any weddings. That's the bargain.
Yeah.
So I mean, this judge had just done a sex discordant wedding. I call them. And she cried during it and was so emotional and got all worked up about this couple. And then the lesbian couple comes along and she's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's not
I don't do this.
You know, a little bit narcissistic there. It's not all about her. But look, if you want to add your voice to this, there's a petition going at change.org, even though the brides are saying they're over it, it's fine. They've gotten past this stage. But the Judge Pitts Davis, is now under investigation by the State Commission of Judicial Conduct. The motivation being bigotry.
Well, it took a while for them to acknowledge there was an investigation. They were trying to cover up for her.
Right.
And that's outrageous. And it's very hard to get these proceedings going, but the district attorney is filing a motion against her. We've got the Governor Hochul speaking out. The Onondaga County Democratic chair called on her to resign. The mayor of Syracuse denounced her. So, that's what should happen. You got to do your job. But this is, like Kim Davis in Kentucky.
Like baking cakes, yes.
Kim Davis didn't want to do...
Kim didn't want to do that, but also people that bake cakes and don't want to put a cake in a gay wedding.
But Kim Davis was a public official. She's not a cake baker, not a private person. She had to do this, and she didn't. She got sued, and she lost, and she had to pay a lot of money. But the right wing is bringing the Kim Davis case, and maybe this woman is going to try to do the same thing. And they want that to go to the Supreme Court so that people with certain religious convictions don't have to have anything to do with us. And you can't have a society like that for people in public life.
Well,
right?
I think they want to have a society like that, but yes, I agree.
Okay. And then,
well, in Alabama, Alabama's a little bit different. We've got we're going to Alabama now, or
I think so. Oh, yes. Well, let's go to Alabama.
This is our second helping of good news. We have a federal judge, Judge Austin Huffaker Jr. He's actually a Trump-appointed judge, which is really quite remarkable.
What did he do?
But here's the thing. He has ruled that an Alabama town called Prattville must allow the gay pride float from Prattville Pride in the Christmas parade. You had the town saying, we have safety concerns. And he said, there are no credible threats of violence. What are you talking about? You can't do this. This is a First Amendment issue. Absolutely. And this is an anti-LGBT group called Clean Up Alabama. They lobbied to exclude Prattville Pride from being in the float. And originally there was going to be a drag queen sitting atop the float. And of course, the drag queen declined to participate out of safety concerns.
Well, I mean, but as I said, there hadn't been any threats, and it seems to have gone off with that. Did we show the picture of them marching? There they are. Prattville Pride issued a statement saying, we're excited to celebrate alongside our neighbors and friends in the spirit of love, joy, and unity. Now, there's a little town of 40,000 people. Yeah.
But look, it comes down to something very simple. You might be asking, why did the Trump-appointed judge side with Prattville Pride in this case? It's quite simple. It's the First Amendment. A ban on this group would violate the First Amendment.
He said violations of free speech and equal protection cannot be tolerated. And he ordered them to provide at least 2 police officers to escort them down the street. Yeah. I mean, that's the job of government, is to protect us, not to say, oh, this is a lot of trouble for us.
So Libs of TikTok, I mean, they weighed in and they called Prattville Pride garbage for offering chest binders to trans kids. Again, this is coming down to the trans minor argument. But nevertheless, look, it's gone ahead, and I think it's a good thing.
All right, all right. Biden is leaving. Mm-hmm. The Democratic majority in the Senate is leaving. And I'm getting a lot of emails from you saying, you've got to talk about this that has to happen before the end of the year. And we hope some of them can. But one of the things that hasn't happened is Biden never certified the Equal Rights Amendment.
Right.
Now, the requisite number of states have passed the Equal Rights Amendment. This started back in the late 70s, right? Yeah. And it had a deadline, but some people think deadlines are unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. And Virginia ratified it in 2020. Mm-hmm. Well, Trump wasn't about to do anything about that, when he was president. And Biden didn't do anything while he was president. All he's got to do is convey to the archivist of the United States that you've got to put this on part of the Constitution now. So there was a rally we had at the public library on Fifth Avenue, last-ditch effort to get him to do that. And 46 senators have written Biden and urging him to do it. So you can call the White House and urge him to do it. You can call him at 202-456-1111 or go to whitehouse.gov/contact to email the president demanding that he publish the ERA. I don't know why he won't do that.
Why do you think?
Well, I think he didn't do it beforehand because he was running for president. Yeah. Maybe didn't want to complicate things for Harris or something. But now's the time to do a lot of things.
Hey, listen, mate, if you can pardon your son, you can publish this one.
Right. Okay. National Institute of Mental Health has awarded a grant of up to $5 million to 2 psychologists who are performing an identity-affirming eating disorder treatment for LGBTQ people. Now, of course, this is
Hang on. An identity affirming eating disorder?
Promoting resilience to improve disordered eating. Okay. It's called Pride.
Wow.
Well, so as I said, right-wing heads are exploding over this. They'll probably, Elon Musk will probably try to take the money away. But, that's, again, this is the kind of thing that the administration is doing at the last minute before
pushing it through,
the next regime comes in, et cetera. All right. Let's talk about some of the, Trump. The grotesqueness continues. His nominee to head the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice is an anti-trans activist, Harmeet, I don't have a picture of her, Dhillon, Dhillon. And she's an election denier with a history of battling DEI initiatives in court. She also represented a detransitioner in court versus Kaiser Permanente. She's a big fan of the anti-LGBTQ terrorist Chaya Raichik, who does Libs of TikTok. Big fan.
That's terrifying.
Chaya Raichik, 6 violent mobs on drag acts around the country. This is the kind of people that are this is why we're a little frightened. And we should be, and especially gender nonconforming people. Oh, by the way, we've also learned that Richard Grenell, the gay guy who had worked for Trump in the first administration, I think is his national intelligence guy.
Yeah.
Well, he may have bribed right-wing influencers to endorse his bid for Secretary of State. That's what he wanted. So he was trying to work a deal. He denies this, by the way, but there is some evidence that happened.
The problem with influencers, I tell you what. So what's going to happen to Rubio, though?
Well, Rubio, I don't think Rubio's going to, unless something comes up, is going to have any trouble getting confirmed. But the problem is people like Hegseth at the Department of Defense, who was a horror show, now they've scared Jody Ernst, the senator from Iowa, who was in the military, was in combat, who was sexually assaulted in the military.
Right.
They're saying you're not gonna get reelected if you don't. And she's up for reelection in the next cycle if you don't support this guy. So they're caving in, and we're going to get this monster as the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
I mean, my God. The fact that he wants to get rid of veterans benefits. privatize that. And he says, you know what, veterans get too many benefits. If you were in a war or something, okay, but not just everybody who served.
Incredible.
This is the kind of stuff this guy says. And yet he's not totally toxic. I don't get it.
Well, while you're on that topic, do you want to talk about the Defense Authorization Act and what's happening there?
Well, we could,
That's
yes.
jumping ahead, is it?
The U.S. House Rules Committee announced a version of this is what they call the must-pass National Defense Authorization Act, with the provision to strip away health care from trans children of service members. It's so cruel.
Yeah, 4 lines in the 1,800-page package, basically just targeting the prohibition of coverage for minors, quote, medical interventions for the treatment of gender dysphoria that could result in sterilisation. I thought that very interesting that that's what they're focusing on. And also they're wanting to, written into this is a hiring freeze on DEI positions, of course. We knew that was going to happen. And the prohibition of federal spending on critical race theory in any military education.
The question is, of course, Democrats are all objecting to this. I don't know about all Democrats, so the question is whether the Senate can scuttle this, but of course then they just go into the next round and maybe they pass it when they get the Congress. Don't forget, Republicans only have 220 members of the House, and they're going to lose 3 to who are resigning or becoming Trump administration officials. So they're going to be down to a majority of like 1. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's out of town or sick, they're not going to be able to pass things.
No.
But anyway, and Trump is willing to fight for RFK Jr. at HHS and that crazy Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence because they are disaffected Democrats and beloved by the MAGA base. By the way, I don't want to give Trump any credit, but his people supposedly dumped a candidate of the religious right for Deputy HHS Secretary, Roger Severino, who served in the first administration. This is a big anti-abortion activist. He did serve in the first administration, and they don't want him back. So that's interesting. And then, of course, Bobby Kennedy Jr. Oh, my God. We've got a picture of Bobby. There he is on the bottom there. Ann says that's Bobby Kennedy Jr. trying to capture LGBTQ support. Ann said actually something more there. I mean,
what actually
there
is
he is.
Which one's Bobby? Is he on
the
top?
Bottom.
Oh, he's on the bottom. Take that how you like it. But thanks for sending that in, Ann. That's a crack up.
All right. Supreme Court. This week, the Supreme Court actually sidestepped the issue of a parent's challenge to a Wisconsin school district of policy of supporting students' questions about gender identity. Now, a right-wing group said the schools are hiding gender transitions from parents. The Eau Claire School District says, look, its all gender support plans are in the student's permanent file, and parents have access to that. So we're not hiding anything. But that wasn't good enough for Justices Alito, Kavanaugh, and Thomas, who ignored the district court ruling, which was made by some Trump judges who said, no, this challenge is not valid to this policy. So there's Alito and Thomas especially are zealots in their hatred of LGBTQ people. Zealots. Just terrible. Okay. I keep talking about Richie Torres, the out-gay congressman from the Bronx who wants to run for mayor or governor. Keeps saying incumbents are too far left, but his recent past positions are being unearthed, including his past support for defund the police, which was never a great slogan, but during the height of the Black Lives Matter things, he came out for that. The actual thing behind that was, let's spend some more money on social work and helping people instead of just police, and take some police money and put it into people who can actually help these people on the street and all that kind of stuff.
Now tell us why should he be on our radar? Because I know
because he's an out gay guy, and he's very aggressive about trying to get himself elected, and he trashes the governor and the mayor every day.
And what are his chances?
I'm not saying there aren't valid criticisms of them.
What's his chances, do you think?
We shall. Well, I mean, the latest poll, Governor Hochul's not doing so great, but you can't beat somebody with nobody.
I'm not a fan of her. So
and Mayor Adams, our mayor, I just want to say this, this week he wouldn't answer the question of whether he might not run as a Republican next year. The guy's under indictment, and he might just try to switch parties and get reelected that way. Well, it worked for Trump, and he's become very aligned with Trump.
All right.
Our mayor in New York. All right. The Michigan House passed a bill to repeal the state's anti-sodomy law. How about that?
Hallelujah.
Which had never been taken off the books, lest it come back again because Clarence Thomas and his wrecking crew on the Supreme Court have talked about doing that. The court declared such laws unconstitutional in 2003 in the Lawrence v. Texas decision. But just last year, the Michigan lawmakers added sexual orientation and gender identity to the human rights law. So they've made great progress, but they hadn't gotten rid of the sodomy law. People don't like voting against
I wonder when,
or voting for sodomy.
Well, when was the last time it was enforced? I'd have to ask my Michigan friends.
Well, here's the thing. When sodomy laws are on the books, they are used against people, who, especially like sex workers and things, you committed sodomy. If it's done in public, it's they get you on that. But mainly, it defines you as a criminal. You're part of a criminal class, and it hurts you in terms of jobs and all that. And they can say, look, you're prone to commit a crime, basically. So we've got to get rid of these laws.
As we found out last episode.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we told you that the House Republicans have been hell-bent against Sarah McBride and keeping her out of the women's room, and now want to ban all trans women or trans people from restrooms aligning with their gender. So there was a protest at the U.S. House. A bunch of people got arrested. Trans women activists held a dance party in a Capitol Hill restroom. and we have video. 16 people were arrested on Thursday from the gender liberation movement, including trans activist Chelsea Manning. Now that's pretty brave of Chelsea, because Chelsea has been incarcerated and could certainly.
Quite the history.
They held up a banner that said, "Congress, stop pissing on our rights."
But who was absent from the demonstration? Who was absent?
Sarah McBride is not protesting that. She's saying, I'm going to go along with it. I have to say, Sarah, you are supposed to be a trans leader. I mean, you are a trans leader, and people look to you. And if you just say, I'm going to comply with this, you want all trans people across the country to not be able to use restrooms that align with their gender identity. I get that she wants to be, I'm a congresswoman for all people in Delaware, blah, 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 blah. But, when this happens, you got to step up.
This is a tough nut to crack. Should every trans person be an activist? Can every trans person be an activist?
Well, I'm just saying Sarah started out that way. She worked for the Human Rights Campaign.
Why do you think she complied then? Like, why do you...
Let's have her in and talk to her about it.
Curious.
She's bending to the wicked Nancy Mace of South Carolina. A trans activist, Stephanie Wade, wrote that Sarah McBride and the Democrats will never win if they don't learn how to fight. And Wade was herself once a congressional aide. This applies to everybody, not just Sarah McBride.
There you go.
And again, not trying to be hard on you, Sarah, but if a black representative was told you can't use the certain restrooms,
exactly,
it would be a hell of a fight.
And the days when there were no restrooms for women,
correct,
on the Capitol.
That's right.
So yeah, if you don't fight, you won't win.
Right. Like the black women in what's the movie? The women who aided NASA in the
yes, fabulous. But we're having a senior moment at the moment, so we can't remember it.
But they didn't have restrooms that black women could use, or black people could use near where they had to go halfway across the campus to go to the bathroom. That's
absolutely
terrible.
Right. Yep.
All right. So the right-wing fight against trans care for minors intensified. The medical. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy. I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name, but Dr. Olson Kennedy is being sued by a former patient.
She's the medical director of the Center for Trans Youth Health at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. She's
probably the country's leading pediatric medical expert on transitioning for
So who's
minors.
suing her?
Yes, she's being sued by a former patient who has detransitioned from treatment for medical negligence after overseeing the girl was mentally ill, allegedly. Without looking at all of the records, it's hard to know,
Right.
but this is what they're saying in the lawsuit, that the girl was suffering from mental illness and that the gender transition, which started at age 12,
With puberty blockers.
and testosterone, followed by a mastectomy at age 14, actually triggered more severe mental illness, including a suicide attempt. The lawsuit accuses Dr. Kennedy Olson of prescribing this 12-year-old who was newly gender questioning this care.
She's also suing the plastic surgeon
Yep.
and the family therapist who she was referred to, and all the affiliated hospitals, because that's where the money is.
Well, here's what she says. She says now she's having breast reconstruction surgery to get to reinstate the breast, but she says that she was sort of rushed into this treatment after a single appointment and no assessment with a mental health care professional.
All that has to be adjudicated in court. This is, of course, what she's alleging in her lawsuit, which is being brought by a guy from Texas in a firm that specializes representing detransitioners. And 6 Republican senators, led by Ted Cruz and the brilliant Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, are demanding an inquiry into Olson Kennedy's withholding of data from an NIH-funded puberty blocker study.
This is going
so
to be
this
a
is their issue.
landmark
This
case.
is the issue that they think that they can rule the country on for a long time.
It's going to be a landmark case, and it's really tough because I can see Dr. Olson Kennedy's great compassion being interpreted as coercion, which is, I'm going to see how this shakes out.
Well, look, lots of doctors get sued for lots of things that people feel went wrong in their treatment, and now you have people doing this. Now, golf news. Sorry not to have Ann here for this, but the LPGA, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, and the USGA, United States Golf Association, since 1895, they are now going to ban trans women golfers who have gone through male puberty. If you've gone through male puberty, they're saying you're banned from elite events.
Right.
They're citing competitive fairness. It's a response to the trans Scottish golfer Hayley Davidson, who won some small events on a small tour and nearly made it to the U.S. Women's Open. Hayley says she saw it coming, got very little support. The new guidelines follow those of World Aquatics, which were issued in order to exclude Leah Thomas from swimming competitions.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I wish.
Well, that's where this is going.
Yes, it is.
Everybody's setting different. Look, in the beginning, it was just like, how long have you been on, puberty blockers? Have you reduced your, testosterone level? All those kinds of things. So the criteria keeps changing. The point is, this is what's going to happen in elite sports. The question is it going to extend to everything, like little kids running around in intramural things and that kind of stuff? All right. What is going on in Florida?
Oh, wow. Well, look, the new middle school sex curriculum in Orange County has eliminated, pretty much scrubbed the previous lessons on basic things like the human reproductive system, contraception, and consent, of course, which is most important. What remains is a cursory discussion
of... And this is sex education without sex.
They've kept some discussion of sexually transmitted diseases and infections briefly, but the discussion is now honing in on the value of abstinence. And this was signed by Governor Ron DeSantis, no surprise there. The law requires schools to, quote, teach abstinence from sexual activity outside of marriage as the expected standard for all school-age students.
Ann and I used to do AIDS education, sex education in the schools, and, the abstinence-only people say that's the only 100% effective way to prevent STIs or pregnancy. And that's just not true. And
no, it's not true.
I always said when we did these things, you can't tell people that.
No.
Because you can't tell people you just can't have sex until 10 years from now.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to do something.
That's right.
And the fact is, mutual masturbation, as Dr. Ruth used to say, is safe. You know, for two people to do that, they're not going to transmit STIs. They're not going to get pregnant from mutual masturbation. There are things that you can do.
There's lots of safe sex things, but the paradigm of not having sex until you marry a stranger, we kind of worked out that didn't work, you know?
Yeah.
Decades ago. So,
of course. But I mean, all of the information that you need, and they're withholding it from you in these curricula, is available on the internet. There are lots of responsible groups which talk to teens about sex, about responsibility, about consent, about all these issues. And we need to educate you need to educate yourself.
Do you know what they used to do in the
and each other?
Well, what they used to do this is what's next, I think. They're going to show kids horrible, gruesome videos of venereal diseases and things. You know, that's probably what
scare
they'll
tactics.
Do. Yes, because that's what they did to the Navy in the 1950s to stop sailors from going to the brothels in port. It doesn't stop them from doing that at all. Of course it doesn't.
But at least they supplied them with condoms.
Yes.
You know,
see, this is
and that.
Of course.
And you know, Ann and I were part of the effort in the New York City Public Schools to get condoms in the schools in 1991, and we were successful.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, got a picture of him. He signed the Freedom to Read Act, banning libraries and public schools from banning books. Reading freely, he said, is key to helping our children become lifelong learners. Thank you, Governor Murphy, who's, I guess, on his way out next year. I mean, this is last year.
It's a nice surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, but what about the teacher in Claremont County, Ohio?
Yes, Karen Cahill. So you might remember this in Ohio. She is a long-serving school teacher who was suspended over a book ban because there were, I believe, 4 books found in her classroom.
LGBTQ related books.
Apparently. So she was placed on unpaid suspension because of those 4 books sitting in her classroom. Here's what the books, she's been teaching since 1990. She's now filed a lawsuit against the district for unfair dismissal after a parent named Kayla Shaw emailed the school's principal, the board education members to report these books. Here they are: Anna on the Edge, The Fabulous Zed Watson, Hazel Bly and the Deep Blue Sea, Too Bright to See. I've never heard of these books. I certainly don't know that they're controversial.
But she said none of them are offensive or obscene, and said when you have a policy against controversial books, that is unconstitutionally vague. You can't just, because it doesn't specify much.
No, but I cannot believe we're here. I mean, this is truly shocking that somebody can lose their job over a couple of books found in their office. I mean, God, when I was 13, I was reading, Thomas Hardy and Aldous Huxley, and there are radical and very sexual things in those books.
And the Holy Bible has a lot of sex in it and violence. Seriously, and I'm not saying that to be try to be funny. It's true.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Back in Florida, a judge will not dismiss a lawsuit versus Target, the store
really?
Target, accusing it of deceiving shareholders after its sales of LGBTQ merchandise for Pride Month sparked right-wing backlash from America First Legal, soon to be running the Department of Justice,
right.
By the way.
That's right.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I just said, oh my God. Okay. All right. I think we need to talk about
Nikki?
Some people we've lost. Nikki Giovanni.
Yes.
She was the poet of Black Joy. She's died at the age of 81 of lung cancer, survived by her wife, Virginia C. Fowler. Now, Nikki, well,
I was astounded to delve into her biography. What a woman, what a life. I mean, she started writing poetry in the 1960s. In fact, she self-published her first 2 books and they sold thousands. She was inspired by the civil rights movement, by the black arts movement especially. She was key. She's one of Oprah Winfrey's 25 Living Legends, which I think is fantastic. But the thing I didn't know about her is she really came up with the slogan that Obama used, yes, we can. It's a line from the inaugural poem she wrote for him.
She was a celebrity poet and public intellectual who toured widely, and she appeared on TV a lot. Her timing was described as being between a comedian and a Baptist preacher, whether she was speaking to college audiences or prison inmates. Now, there's a quote on the screen from Nikki Giovanni. Deal with yourself as an individual worthy of respect and make everyone else deal with you the same way. She even had a confrontation with James Baldwin, who, of course, is much beloved. But
they worked together.
Yes, but they did a 2-hour television show together, and she was asserting that, there's some problems with men, including black men, and he was like, "Oh, back up a little bit there," and she said, "No, you back up." I mean, she gave no quarter.
No.
She was just.
I think they wrote a book together, didn't they?
No, they loved each other. Yeah. She sold out Alice Tully Hall at the age of 29.
Yeah.
She was not convinced men and women were meant to live together. And of course, she met her future wife at Virginia Tech, who her future wife was one of the heads of the English department, hired her as a visiting scholar, and they were together ever since 1987, and that's Virginia Fowler. But she also taught at Rutgers and Queens College. She was a regular on something called Soul, a PBS black program. She received 7 NAACP awards, 31 honorary doctorates.
Unbelievable. Going back to Virginia Tech, this is something also another factoid about her I did not know. She sounded the alarm on the shooter. He was actually a student of her in her career.
The mass killer.
Yes, he killed 32 people, didn't he? He was in her creative writing and poetry class, and she knew he was a problem. She actually contacted the authorities and said that he was a problem to the class and he was dangerous, and if he wasn't removed from the class, she would resign. And they did remove him, but he came back a couple of years and later and did the shooting.
Author of 30 books, many for children, and she's survived by her son Thomas and a granddaughter. I recommend old age, she said. There's just nothing as wonderful as knowing you have done your job. And we have a short little video of her on the importance of self-love.
I just think it's so important, and I say this as a grandmother, as an older woman here, and I do recommend old age, I really love it, that you like yourself. And what worries me about your generation is that most of you don't. Yeah. Most of you are not fond of, when you wake up in the morning, and I laugh at my students about that, and you're brushing your teeth, the first thing you have to say is, I love you. Because it may be the only time you hear I love you in the day. Say it to yourself. The first thing you do is smile to yourself.
I'll try to take that to heart.
Wow.
I don't think I do that when I look in the mirror in the morning.
Listen, she really was something. There's a lot of wisdom in her poetry and words. If you have iTunes, do go on, because there's a whole station dedicated to her. She got a Grammy nomination for a spoken word album, which has got all this backing of soul and R&B and gospel music. It's fantastic, fantastic listen.
Nikki Giovanni, a legend, a legend. Okay, and also we lost this week a very beloved gay theater director, David Schweizer, died of a heart attack on December 4th. There he is on the left there with Marga Gomez, the comedian and playwright, lesbian comic, who he often worked with.
8 times, I think.
He was 72. Just finished co-directing Orson Shadow with Austin Pendleton at the Theater for the New City.
Yeah.
He was a graduate of Yale Drama, mentored by Joe Papp at the Public Theater. He was based in New York and Venice, California. He produced plays and operas worldwide. His God-created Great Whales production won the Obie Award, Off-Broadway Award, and he was a beloved figure in the arts for really 50 years. He directed our pal, Nora Burns, who used to work with us here at Gay Cable. That photo, by the way, of him was compliments of Jackie Rudin, who was close to him.
Thank you, Jackie. And I wish I could have attended his famous loft parties. He had this all-day New Year's Day party. It just sounds so glamorous to me, this very old New York world. I wish I could go back.
A life well lived.
Yep.
A life well lived, and will be missed. International news?
Sure.
All right. In Kenya, so in 2023, we told you about the murder of gay activist Edwin Kiptoo. We'll put the picture up. Kiptu is the guy on the left. His former lover, there on the right, Jacktone Odhai Ambo, was convicted of suffocating him, stuffing him in a metal trunk and putting it on the side of the road. So a representative for a coalition of 16 Kenyan LGBTQ organizations called the verdict convicting him an indication of progress. I mean, imagine just being grateful that you got a conviction for the murder of somebody. Kiptu, also known as Chiloba, was earning a degree in fashion and design at the time of his death at 25, and had just posted he was going to fight for all marginalized people, and he cited himself as an example. So being out in Kenya, well, very brave, and just had a very tragic association with this guy who was sort of an ex-boyfriend.
But there's things about this case I'm not clear about, and I can't work out if it's sort of homophobia embedded in the judgment. I mean, of course, I'm glad he's convicted, but they're saying he was sexually assaulted before he was suffocated. And I wonder how they're working that out. Is that forensics that they see he had sex with this man before he was murdered, or how did it was violent? Well, this is the thing we don't know. And yet, the court has made no finding about the motive. So do you think it's a lover's quarrel or a discarded, disgruntled ex, or what? We don't know.
And we don't know the answers to all those questions. Okay, more on the police raids on Moscow gay bars last week. As you can see, they were done at gunpoint. These guys come in with these automatic weapons in gay bars, put everybody on the floor, round them up. Dozens were rounded up and put into police wagons. And a Russian court has already found 50 of them within a week guilty of hooliganism and sentenced them to administrative detention. Now, young men at the Mono nightclub were handed military draft notices during the raid. So no problems with gays in the military in Russia if they need cannon fodder.
Well, that's just because all the straight Russian men have moved to Thailand and Bali. Apparently, there's been a mass exodus down to Southeast Asia from the men who don't want to serve.
Well, I mean, it's like what you've had happen here I'm sorry, I'm going back. But I mean, we didn't mention the fact that there are all these people getting married, and all these LGBTQ people getting married. Marriages in New York were up 33%.
Interesting.
33%. Now, they don't know the genders of all of them, but we're the reason that a lot of people are getting married and solidifying their relationships and protecting their children. And also, a lot of LGBTQ people here are stockpiling medications that they don't think they're going to be able to get after the new regime comes in.
Right.
And that's for a variety of, not just trans people, but people with HIV and all these kinds of things, with these nutcases running the health departments. All right. Take us to Poland.
Poland, all right. Yes, we have the first ever queer museum has opened in Warsaw. Now, this is special because Poland, of course, is lagging behind the other European countries in terms of LGBTQ rights. We know that same-sex partnerships are still not recognised by law in Poland. But this museum was opened by the oldest LGBTQ association in the country, called Lambda Warsaw. It's a milestone, of course, and it's featuring 150 artefacts, some of them going back to the 16th century.
The 16th century
chronicling LGBTQ history and life.
16th century, which was around the time that Henry VIII banned homosexuality in England.
Yeah.
All right, so good on them.
Yeah.
And of course, they've elected a government which is much more moderate now.
Yes.
Yes. And Warsaw has always been pretty good. Spain. Prime Minister Sanchez is moving to
I like him.
He's moving to put abortion rights and marriage equality in the Constitution, he said, so that it can never be undone.
Exactly. Note to us, right? He is a left-wing leader, but he made the announcement at an event marking the 46th anniversary of the Spanish Magna Carta. He's wanting to protect the rights against, quote, a reactionary force, which calls into question these rights as important.
I don't know the Spanish Magna Carta. Is that like after Franco fell?
Yes, it's after Franco fell. Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Right.
So the next election there is in 2027.
Tell us about this lesbian in Germany.
this lesbian in Germany, where I find her morbidly fascinating, and I don't know where my notes on her have gone. Right. Alice Vidal, I'm not sure, is that how we pronounce her name? Look at this woman is very interesting to me because she speaks fluent Cantonese. She's married to a Sri Lankan woman who she has 2 children with, and yet she is the head of the conservative...
Not conservative.
Right-wing, far right. Well, there's...
The Alternative for Germany party.
Exactly, and her party now has 18% of the vote against behind the Conservative Party. So for the first time ever, they've decided to put forward a candidate to run as chancellor.
She's anti-immigrant. She's a Eurosceptic. She wants Germany to be at the top again worldwide.
Yes, doesn't
When did we last hear that in Germany? I think it was in the 1930s.
Chilling words. But you know what's strange to me?
Echoes of MAGA. She's 45 years old, raising 2 kids.
Yep. But you know, the funny thing is she lives in Switzerland and she computes to Berlin to sit in the Bundestag's lower house to do the job.
And they want her to be the chancellor.
Yes.
They don't have a residency requirement?
Well, I suppose, so many, look, I love Switzerland, but look, it does have a history of harbouring people of certain kinds of beliefs, so,
When LGBTQ people, rise in these ways, I call it the unintended consequence of gay liberation. I mean, we made it possible, and again, the early movement, we were all basically on the left. The right-wing people did not come out and participate in our movement in the beginning. But now we've made it easier for them to come out in the Republican Party, in these parties, and you just have to live with that.
I have so many thoughts about this. There are all kinds of people, and we are all kinds of people. But, she lived in China for some time where she worked for the Bank of China, and then before she moved into another area of finance. I'm just wondering,
she worked for Goldman Sachs?
Is this woman, is she a bigot, or does she have there's always been this movement in Germany of a fear of cultural erosion, that they're losing their culture, and it's especially strong in Bavaria and parts of Germany, always. But, there must be some kind of disconnect with somebody like that who is married to a woman of colour.
I mean, look, I'm a white guy from the suburbs. I mean, some people in my family are a lot more conservative than I am. My sisters weren't. But, I mean, certainly being gay is what gave me some understanding of what other oppressed people go through to some extent, and got me in the civil rights movement and all those other kinds of things, and the women's movement and all these kinds of things. That's what you hope happens.
Yeah.
So the Catholic Church in Germany, which is a liberal outlier, has strengthened its embrace of LGBTQ members in the Munich diocese, creating a diocesan network for queer pastoral care, serviced by specially trained care workers. A parish displayed large format portraits of 14 LGBTQ people in St. Paul's Church. Now, this is the old diocese of Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict the 16th, very anti-gay and right-wing. And an auxiliary bishop for the country has been put in charge of pastoral care for LGBTQ people for the last 6 years. Out LGBTQ employees are not fired for getting married or something like that, as they are here in the United States in the Catholic Church. The German Church hasn't gone all the way with us, but this is progress.
And what do you make, speaking about churchy things, what about the Vatican adding a big LGBTQ event next year to their Holy Year? 2025 is the Jubilee. It's a once in 50 year celebration.
They listed a group of gay pilgrims who are coming in for this, right?
I'm impressed with this, though.
But then they got questioned about it. They said, well, we're not endorsing this. It's just on our list. So that's kind of what's happening.
Nevertheless, on September the 5th, you can, if you are LGBTQ, you can go to the vigil in Rome at the lovely Baroque Jesuit Mother Church, and then you can pass through the holy door of the St. Peter's Basilica, and then you can attend the Mass again back at the Baroque Church. I think that's the first, and that's pretty nice.
And I say, whatever turns you on.
Oh.
Okay. In China, a trans influencer has settled a lawsuit with a hospital that subjected her to conversion therapy and worse. Ling Er, Ling-er, 28 years old, she received electroshock treatment against her will. Now, this is the first such suit about this, and she received a sizable settlement and she said, with the money, I can start my new life, start my own business, I can live my own life. Her mom had her involuntarily hospitalized. She was in the hospital for 97 days. China classifies trans people as mentally ill.
Yes.
But it does allow changing genders if you undergo surgery, and you have to notify your family.
That's right. If you're mentally ill in China, you can be committed to hospital without your own consent, that's the slippery slope there for trans people. But there's going to be a movement there. I'm convinced of it. Okay.
In health news, we told you that these lesbians sued Aetna Insurance, and they won because they were denied reimbursement for in vitro fertilization. And now a federal judge has approved it as a class action settlement with Aetna and same-sex couples in New York. So they reached the deal in October. They can get reimbursement. This is Emma Goidel and her spouse, Ilana Kaplan. They filed suit in 2021 after being denied. They were repped by the National Women's Law Center. 13 states now require fertility treatment coverage for same-sex couples unless they get the insurance through companies that self-fund the policies. United Healthcare and Blue Cross Blue Shield are facing similar suits. Of course, United Healthcare has been quite in the news this week. We're not going to, I don't think we have anything to add to that.
Can't think of a gay angle for that story yet.
No, other than the fact that a lot of people have been denied insurance over the years, and that's why people are not so upset about what happened, although, of course, murder is wrong.
Murder is wrong.
All right. Entertainment news?
Sure.
Okay. So, tell us about, a person we knew as Emma Dumont.
Yes. Do we have a picture of Emma, who is now going by Nick to family and friends? Now, I didn't remember Emma Dumont from the movie, the Oscar-winning movie Oppenheimer, but at the time, she played Jackie Oppenheimer, the namesake's, the titular character's sister-in-law, I believe. Anyway, they are 30 years of age, and they posted to Instagram that they now no longer identify as a woman, and they will be using they, them as pronouns. But professionally, they're still going by Emma Dumont. Their Instagram handle is still Emma Dumont.
We are trying to keep up.
All right.
Out actor Coleman Domingo, someone we really love, won the Best Actor honors at the Gotham Film Awards for the movie Sing Sing.
Yes.
Here pictured with Clarence Macklin on the right there. Macklin was formerly incarcerated. This is a movie, a true story involving Macklin. They did an acting project in Sing Sing prison. And Macklin won the Best Supporting Actor. Coleman Domingo won the Best Actor for the film. It's the acting awards, by the way, at the Gothams are gender neutral. So you had men, women, and whoever else, and everybody in between in the same category. And I wanted to show you Coleman Domingo's rather moving speech at the awards ceremony about the making of this movie, Sing Sing.
It is my honor to stand here on behalf of our cast, crew, producers, and director Corey Creedar and give thanks to you, Gotham. This film was made with the independent spirit that guided every step in the making of it, from script development to prep, to production, to post, to this stage. We have collaborated collectively in a way that we cannot tell where one person's work ends and another person's begin. Our principle throughout was to make sure that every single person felt seen, respected, and their work was honored. The practice to be paid the same scale rate, whether you were above or below the line, from PAs, transportation, grips, gaffers, designers, directors, camera operators, producers, cast, including number one on the call sheet, we were paid the same daily rate. A pay scale that we hope will be a light in the darkness of our industry and help find new paths to create more independent film and assure that everyone feels seen and equitable for everyone. Everyone on Sing Sing has ownership of Sing Sing. When the film succeeds, we all succeed. We truly made it together. I don't have to tell you that the soul of the world is aching. We wanted to offer a story of human beings finding light in the darkness, men finding tenderness and the keys to enlivening their humanity as they played theater games or performed Shakespeare and found pieces of their soul trapped under the rubble of the circumstances. And you have seen in the film one of my co-stars, Clarence Macklin. He gave us a tremendous gift to call each other beloved. A word that shook me to the core as he presented that transformational word to us in the development of making Sing Sing. And I quote, he said, "We don't use the N-word around here, man. We call each other beloved." The film had one guiding principle, and that principle was grace. Greg never said that explicitly, but I finally realized that that was what he offered every single one of us. Thank you, Greg. My co-star Paul Racy, who plays teacher Brent Buell in our film, says, "Who could believe that the healing of the world can begin behind these walls of Sing Sing?" Well, we do. So let's continue to pour into each other so we all may heal. Thank you, Gotham, for honoring our film, made to just shine a light on the human beings doing the work. As my colleague Dino says in our film, to be human again. This is our film, Sing Sing.
That is, very inspiring.
He's the real deal, isn't
Very
he?
inspiring.
I really look forward to next year with him. He's got the Michael Jackson film coming up. He's got biopics on Nat King Cole and Sammy Davis Jr.
And let's get to the Golden Globe
Yes.
nominations. I don't care about them that much, but I'm impressed that Out by Sexual Cynthia Erivo was nominated for Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Therefore, Wicked, but will be up against trans actor Karla Sofía Gascón for EMILIA PEREZ, which got led with 10 nominations. Daniel Craig also got a nod for Queer, as did Out Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing. Lots of LGBT.
Jodie Foster, True Detective.
Yeah, TV. These are those are the film nominees.
Right,
TV
all right.
nominees.
All right, I'm just jumping around here, but look, Andrew Scott from Ripley, Jessica Gunning from Baby Reindeer,
Emma Darcy from what is that called? House of Dragon.
Yes, House of Dragon, and Hannah Einbinder from Hacks, of course.
So lots of LGBTQ people acknowledged there. Anyway, a long week, a lot of news. We will link to some of it. And we thank you for being with us this week. And again, we'll remind you that Ann will be back next week. But it's been great to have you on the show for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Can you believe it? Wow. I'm having a bit of a run, but thank you so much for calling me in, and miss you, Anne. I hope you're doing great.
We do. And again, if you'd like to make an end-of-the-year donation to Gay USA, go to gayusatv.org, and you can do that. We very much appreciate all the support that we're getting, because we're going to have to keep going through this next year. Thanks for being with us.